Medieval Europe was dominated by a system called feudalism, a hierarchical structure that defined the social, economic, and political landscape of the time. This system was based on land ownership and loyalty, where land was the primary source of wealth and power. At the top of this pyramid was the king, who held the most land and wielded the greatest authority. He granted portions of his vast territories, called fiefs, to nobles in exchange for their loyalty and service. In return for the land, these nobles swore an oath of loyalty to the king, pledging to support him in times of need. They promised to provide him with knights for military service, ensuring the king had a ready army at his disposal. The nobles, in turn, could grant portions of their land to lesser lords, creating a complex chain of obligation and service. At the very bottom of the feudal pyramid were the peasants, who formed the backbone of the agricultural economy. They worked the land owned by the nobles and knights, producing the food and resources that sustained the entire system. Peasants had few rights and were bound to the land, unable to leave without their lord's permission. They paid taxes to their lords and provided labor, ensuring the smooth functioning of the feudal system. The Catholic Church held immense power during the Middle Ages, shaping the lives of everyone from peasants to kings. It influenced every aspect of life, from birth to death and even beyond. The Church owned vast tracts of land and collected taxes, which funded its many activities and projects. Church leaders held sway over kings and emperors, often advising them on matters of state and policy. They could excommunicate those who defied them, cutting them off from the community and the sacraments. Excommunication meant being banished from the church, a fate feared by all. It was a terrifying punishment, as people believed it would condemn them to hell, a place of eternal suffering. One of the most significant events driven by the Church was the Crusades, a series of religious wars. These were intended to capture the Holy Land from Muslim control, and they spanned several centuries. The Crusades had a profound impact, ultimately increasing trade between Europe and the East and bringing new ideas and goods. Early medieval trade was limited. People mostly traded locally. However, the Crusades opened up new trade routes to the East. Merchants brought back exotic goods like spices and silks. This trade led to the growth of towns. People flocked to towns for economic opportunity. A new merchant class emerged, accumulating wealth and challenging the feudal order. Towns became centers of trade and culture. As trade flourished, so did the use of money. This further weakened the feudal system, which relied on land and labor. The rise of towns marked a significant shift in medieval society. The elements of feudalism, religion, and trade, so central to medieval Europe, ultimately contributed to the colonization of America. These elements created a complex web of motivations and opportunities that drove Europeans to explore and settle in new lands. The Church's desire to spread Christianity played a significant role in motivating exploration. Missionaries and explorers alike were driven by a sense of divine duty to convert indigenous populations to Christianity. The search for new trade routes and riches, fueled by the growing merchant class, also spurred exploration. The promise of wealth and the allure of exotic goods from distant lands were powerful incentives. When Europeans arrived in the Americas, they brought with them the ideas of land ownership and social hierarchy that characterized feudalism. These concepts were foreign to many indigenous cultures and led to significant cultural clashes. The colonization of America led to large-scale immigration from Europe. People from various backgrounds and regions embarked on perilous journeys across the Atlantic in search of new beginnings. People came seeking new opportunities and a better life. They hoped to find freedom from the constraints of their old world and to build prosperous futures for themselves and their families. This massive migration would shape the demographics and future of the Americas. The diverse backgrounds of the settlers contributed to the rich cultural tapestry that defines the continent today.